London was wrapped in one of those rare evenings where everything felt perfectly balanced, warm, golden, and alive. The sun was sinking behind the historic skyline, painting the sky with shades of amber and soft rose. Street lamps flickered on one by one along the Thames, scattering shimmering gold over the calm river. Tourists drifted nearby with cameras hanging from their shoulders, and the crystal glow of the city reflected in their eyes. It was the kind of night people remember for years. Keanu Reeves sat in a quiet corner of a riverside coffee restaurant, one of those hidden gems only locals knew. The place smelled of freshly ground beans, warm pastries, and faint vanilla candles placed on every table. The soft hum of jazz floated through the air, blending perfectly with the murmuring conversations around the room. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Across from him sat his wife, wearing a simple but elegant black coat, her hair gently touched by the golden evening light coming through the window. She smiled at Keanu in that warm, familiar way, the kind of smile that reminded him why he always sought quiet corners of the world rather than crowded places. For once, the world felt calm. No cameras, no noise, no rush, just them. Keanu slowly lifted his cup, inhaling the rich aroma before taking a sip. "London always feels different at this hour," he said softly, watching boats glide across the water. "Like time slows down." His wife nodded, placing her hand gently over his. "Maybe tonight is the break we needed." But destiny had already chosen a different path for this beautiful evening. The door of the café opened and a breeze slipped inside, carrying a chill that didn't belong to the warm night. At first, Keanu didn't turn. Doors opened every few minutes. But something changed in the room. The whispers died. Chairs stopped moving. Even the music seemed to fade behind a sudden blanket of silence. Keanu finally glanced toward the entrance. 3 men dressed in black suits had stepped in. Their presence was cold, deliberate, and commanding. They weren't tourists. They weren't businessmen. Their sharp eyes scanned the cafe with precision, calculated, organized, trained. Keanu instantly recognized the type. He'd met people like them before, not on film sets, but in real life. His wife squeezed his hand slightly. "Do you feel that?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The men split up, taking positions near the door and along the counter. The waitress froze mid-step. Customers lowered their voices to whispers, sensing danger even if they didn't understand why. Keanu's heartbeat remained calm, but inside, a storm of intuition began to rise. Something was coming. Something big. Something he wasn't prepared for. He looked toward the window again, watching the golden river that moments ago promised peace. But now the reflection looked colder, sharper, like the calm before a violent storm. The silence inside the cafe grew heavier, almost physical, like a thick fog slowly wrapping around every table. Conversations that had filled the room just moments earlier dissolved into uneasy murmurs. The clinking of cups stopped. Even the espresso machine, usually hissing with life, seemed to quiet down as if it sensed what was unfolding. Keanu's eyes subtly followed the movements of the 3 men in black suits. They didn't look around like casual visitors trying to find a seat. They scanned the space with practiced discipline, each step calculated, each glance coordinated. Their sharp gazes swept from table to table, memorizing faces, checking corners, evaluating exits. This was not coincidence. This was formation. Keanu leaned slightly forward. "They're not here for coffee," he whispered to his wife without breaking eye contact with the men. She swallowed nervously. "Then who are they here for?" He didn't answer, because deep down, a small part of him already feared the truth. One of the suited men placed a hand on his earpiece, nodding almost imperceptibly as if receiving instructions. Another stepped near the counter, giving a stern look to a barista who instinctively backed away. Customers exchanged glances, confused, tense, scared. A young couple near the window pulled out their phones, pretending to scroll, but their eyes stayed fixed on the men. An elderly man near the entrance lowered his newspaper, staring over the rim of his glasses. And the waitress, still holding a tray with 2 untouched cappuccinos, stood frozen like a statue. Keanu felt the atmosphere tightening around him. Something was missing, something that would complete the unsettling picture forming in his mind. Then he realized. The men weren't alone. He shifted his gaze to the door just as it opened again. Cold evening air rushed in, and with it came a group of strangers, whose presence hit the cafe like a shockwave. They wore darker suits, heavier boots, more serious expressions. Their accents were unmistakably American. Keanu's fingertips grew warm. His instincts sharpened. His wife leaned closer, her voice trembling just enough for him to hear. "Keanu, why are American agents in London?" He placed a steadying hand on hers, though his own pulse was rising. "I don't know, but stay calm." Another silence spread across the room, this time deeper, heavier, more dangerous. The kind of silence that appears right before something explodes. The American officers scanned the cafe the same way the first group had, but their focus was more intense, more precise. And then it happened. All of their eyes landed on Keanu and his wife. The quiet cafe transformed into a pressure cooker. Every person in the room suddenly understood. Whoever these agents were, they had found what they were looking for. One officer nodded sharply to his team. Keanu felt the world tilt. The storm had finally reached him. The door of the cafe swung open with a force that shattered whatever. Faint calm still lingered. This time, no breeze drifted in, only authority. Heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floor, purposeful and unforgiving. Customers turned, eyes widening, breaths catching in their throats. The letters FBI glinted unmistakably from the jackets of the officers who now filled the entrance. 3 American agents stepped inside with precision, their posture straight, their expressions unyielding. These weren't ordinary law enforcement officials. Their presence carried weight, international jurisdiction, diplomatic urgency, and a mission that could not be questioned. The lead agent, a stern-faced man with a steely jawline and sharp eyes, scanned the cafe like he already knew exactly what he was looking for. Behind him, a female agent tapped something on a wrist device, while another officer blocked the doorway, ensuring no one left. A ripple of fear moved through the room. A mother hugged her child closer. A man near the counter slowly lowered his phone. The barista instinctively stepped back, hands trembling. Keanu and his wife exchanged a look, one mix of disbelief and dawning realization. The lead agent stepped forward, his boots hitting the floor like a countdown. He moved past tables and chairs with total confidence, brushing off the frightened stares of customers. Every step felt like it vibrated through the entire cafe. Keanu felt his heart rate shift, not panic, but calculation. He had faced dangerous situations before, though never like this, never with this much uncertainty. The agent finally stopped at their table. For a split second, no one moved. The cafe seemed to shrink, walls closing in, air thickening, time slowing. Then the agent spoke. "Keanu Reeves." The name cut through the silence like a knife. His wife stiffened. Keanu locked eyes with the agent, calm but alert. The agent's voice was cold, official, and heavy with authority. "You and your wife will stand up. You are required to come with us immediately." Gasps erupted around the cafe. People reached for their phones, recording the encounter in shocked disbelief. The air filled with the faint sound of shutters clicking, whispers rattling, chairs scraping. Keanu remained seated for a moment, studying the agent's expression. "There must be a mistake," he said quietly but firmly. The agent shook his head once, slow, emotionless. "No mistake. You are both being detained under orders from the United States. Federal Bureau of Investigation." Keanu's wife placed a trembling hand on his arm. "What's happening?" "Why us?" she whispered. But the agents weren't here to answer questions. 2 more officers moved in from the sides, boxing them in. The female agent unclipped a pair of handcuffs from her belt, the metallic click echoing through the silent cafe like a warning. The lead agent leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough for only them to hear. Time seemed to fracture into slow-motion pieces as the FBI agents tightened. Their circle around Keanu and his wife. Every person in the cafe watched with wide, stunned eyes, unable to comprehend the impossible moment unfolding in front of them. Keanu Reeves, one of the world's most beloved and gentle public figures, was being confronted like a high-risk criminal. The lead agent took a single, deliberate step closer. His voice was calm, steady, and chillingly formal when he spoke. "Keanu Reeves, you and your wife are under arrest." The words didn't simply echo, they detonated through the café. Someone gasped loudly. A spoon clattered onto a plate. Even the jazz music seemed to choke on its own melody. Keanu's wife inhaled sharply. Under arrest? For what? Her voice trembled, but her spirit didn't break. She leaned protectively toward Keanu, refusing to shrink under the pressure. Keanu looked directly into the agent's eyes. "I haven't done anything," he said, his tone calm but edged with disbelief. "You're making a mistake." But the agent didn't blink. He didn't justify. He didn't explain. Instead, he reached into his coat, pulled out a folded document, and opened it with clinical precision. "You are being detained under U.S. federal mandate. All charges will be disclosed after transport." "Transport?" Keanu repeated, his voice tightening. "You're taking us to the United States without telling us why." "Yes," the agent replied without hesitation. "Effective immediately." His wife's eyes filled with confusion and rising fear. "You can't just— This is London, not America. You have no authority to—" The agent cut her off sharply. "We have international authorization. London authorities have already approved the extraction." Extraction. That word changed everything. It wasn't an arrest. It was an operation. Keanu stood slowly, controlled, refusing to let panic touch his expression. "At least tell me what you think I did," he demanded, his voice steady. "My wife has nothing to do with anything." The agent hesitated for the first time, just for a fraction of a second, as if there was something he wanted to say but couldn't. His jaw tightened. "The details are classified." "You will know soon enough." Classified. Another heavy word. Around them, everyone watched, with the helpless shock of witnesses, who knew they were seeing something unjust but could do nothing to stop it. Keanu's wife reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. "Keanu, what if this is something planned?" "What if someone set you up?" He squeezed back, his voice low. "I'm not letting anything happen to you." "Stay close!" But the agents moved fast. The female officer stepped forward and snapped open the handcuffs. "I'm placing you both in protective restraint for transport." Protective? No, this was force, control, a message. Keanu raised his hands slowly, refusing to give them a reason to overpower him. His wife followed, though her breath trembled with every second. The moment the handcuffs locked around Keanu and his wife's wrists, the cafe was no longer a peaceful London retreat. It was a scene of controlled chaos. The warm lights, the scented candles, the gentle jazz, none of it mattered anymore. The agents had transformed the atmosphere into one of imminent danger and unstoppable authority. Customers stood from their seats, whispering loudly, some holding their phones high to record. Others hid behind chairs, unsure if something violent was about to erupt. The staff looked helpless, eyes darting between the couple and the agents, torn between fear and disbelief. The lead agent didn't waste a second. "Move them," he commanded. Two FBI officers tightened their grip on Keanu's arms. Another agent pulled Keanu's wife to her feet, though she stumbled slightly from shock. Keanu instantly shifted closer to her, steadying her with the small freedom he had left. "Careful!" he snapped, anger bleeding through his usually calm voice. But the agent escorting her remained stony-faced, unfazed. "Keep your distance and follow directions," he ordered. Keanu clenched his jaw. He had played action heroes for decades, but nothing about this situation was cinematic. There were no stunt doubles, no retakes, no script. This was raw, real, and terrifying. As they were marched toward the exit, whispers rippled through the cafe. "Why Keanu Reeves? Did he do something? This can't be real. Why is the FBI here? Why handcuff his wife too?" Someone called out, "He's innocent! Let him talk!" Another shouted, "What did he do?" But the agents ignored all of it. They moved with mechanical precision, forming a protective and intimidating barrier around the couple. Every step felt like a tightening noose, each second dragging them further away from their peaceful life. Keanu's wife turned her head slightly, her voice trembling. "Keanu, they're not telling us anything." Why us?" He met her eyes with calm determination. "I don't know," he whispered, "but stay strong." "I'm right here." Outside, the cool London night felt harsher than before. The city's beauty had vanished, replaced by flashing lights and the deep rumble of waiting engines. A convoy of black SUVs lined the street. doors open, engines humming like beasts ready to pounce. Onlookers gathered along the sidewalks, filming, gasping, shouting questions. Some pleaded for answers. Others simply watched, frozen, unable to process the surreal scene of an international celebrity being taken under such extreme force. FBI agents positioned themselves around the street, blocking paths, securing the area with unspoken hostility. London officers stood nearby, but their involvement seemed minimal, almost resigned, as if simply obeying orders from higher powers. Keanu and his wife were pushed into the back of the lead SUV. The leather seats were cold. The metal of the cuffs dug into their wrists. An agent slid in beside them, never taking his hand off his weapon. The black SUV cut through the slick London streets with alarming speed. Rain had just begun to fall, dotting the windshield with tiny, glistening beads that distorted the glowing city lights. Inside, Keanu Reeves and his wife sat side by side, wrists still cuffed, their hands barely able to touch but desperately holding on to each other. The confined space of the vehicle felt suffocating, the air thick with tension. Outside, the city passed in a blur of neon signs, red double-decker buses and pedestrians hurrying under umbrellas. But inside the car, time seemed to stretch. Every passing moment reminded them that there was no turning back. Keanu's mind raced, calculating, observing, and planning, though he had no idea what awaited them. His wife leaned her head on his shoulder for a moment, seeking comfort. "Keanu, I don't understand." "Why are they doing this?" she whispered, voice trembling with fear and disbelief. "We've done nothing." He kissed her hair gently, a grounding gesture amid chaos. "I know," he murmured. "I don't know either. But we'll face it together. Whatever's coming, we stay strong. Stay together." The lead FBI agent in the front seat didn't speak. His eyes were fixed on the road, and his presence radiated authority. Behind them, two other agents sat like statues, hands poised near their weapons. Every bump in the road, every turn, reminded Keanu that he was entirely in their control. The convoy moved quickly through London traffic, lights flashing, sirens off to avoid attracting unnecessary attention. Pedestrians glanced briefly at the speeding SUVs, but dismissed them as VIP security. No one knew the world-famous actor inside was being whisked away under federal orders. No one realized that a quiet London evening had just turned into a high-stakes international operation. Keanu stole a glance at the small screen on the agent's dashboard, showing flight schedules and security protocols. His pulse quickened. The realization hit him. They were already on a tight timetable. Every second counted. Questions raced through his mind. Who wanted him arrested? Who authorized this operation? And most importantly, what danger awaited them once they landed? The journey to Heathrow was tense, almost surreal. The city seemed indifferent to their ordeal, glowing softly under the night sky, oblivious to the unfolding drama. Keanu tried to focus on the present, on his wife's hand in his, on the feel of her warmth. It was the only anchor he had finally. The massive lights of Heathrow Airport appeared in the distance, reflecting off wet tarmac. The convoy slowed, merging with airport security vehicles. A private jet awaited on the tarmac, engines humming softly, ready for departure. FBI agents surrounding the vehicle moved like a choreographed force, opening doors, guiding them toward the plane with precision. Keanu felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The magnitude of what was happening became undeniable. This wasn't just an arrest, it was extraction. The private jet hummed with the low, mechanical rhythm of engines idling, but inside the atmosphere was far from calm. Keanu Reeves and his wife were seated side by side, still handcuffed, their eyes locked in silent communication. Every movement of the plane, every vibration of the cabin, reminded them that they were leaving everything familiar behind. London, home, friends, and a sense of safety, and entering the unknown. The interior of the jet was stark and clinical. Black leather seats, cold metal surfaces, and overhead lights that cast harsh shadows gave the cabin an almost military feel. Two FBI agents flanked them, their expressions unreadable, hands hovering near their weapons. Another agent monitored a small tablet, fingers tapping quietly, updating flight plans and security protocols. Not a word was spoken unless necessary, and when it was sharp, commanding, devoid of empathy. Keanu's wife pressed her forehead gently against his shoulder. Keanu, I'm scared, she whispered, voice trembling. I don't understand why this is happening. He held her hand as best he could, squeezing reassuringly through the cuffs. I know. We'll figure it out. Together. Just stay with me, he said, his voice steady even as his mind raced. He scanned the cabin, noting the exits. The agent's positions, the communications devices. Every detail mattered. Every moment counted. The flight took off smoothly, but the turbulence wasn't just physical. The tension in the cabin was palpable. Agents moved silently, their eyes sharp, observing, analyzing every gesture, every subtle reaction. Keanu realized they were being treated as more than detainees. They were considered high-risk assets and perhaps targets, for reasons he could not yet comprehend. He leaned slightly toward his wife, whispering, "Whatever this is, we need to stay calm. They can't intimidate us if we keep our wits about us." She nodded, taking slow breaths to steady herself. For hours, the plane flew in near silence. Occasionally, one agent would speak into a headset, receiving instructions from authorities far above their heads. Keanu tried to piece together clues, legal or political motives, possible conspiracies, but there was no clear answer. Through the small windows, the world below was a patchwork of darkness and tiny lights. Cities, rivers, forests, all passed silently beneath them, indifferent to the drama inside the jet. Keanu's thoughts drifted briefly to his life before this moment. Acting, family, quiet moments like tonight, now stolen away by forces beyond his control. Finally, the first hints of dawn appeared over the horizon as they approached the coast of the United States. The jet's engines droned steadily, a grim soundtrack to the uncertainty awaiting them. Keanu and his wife exchanged one last glance before the plane descended into the thick anticipation of their arrival. The roar of the jet engines grew louder as it descended toward JFK Airport, the sprawling New York skyline gradually emerging through the morning haze. Inside the cabin, the tension was almost unbearable. Keanu Reeves and his wife remained seated, wrists still bound, exchanging anxious glances that spoke volumes without words. Their world had shrunk to the narrow confines of the aircraft, and now, with the city below, reality pressed closer with every heartbeat. The FBI agents around them remained silent, their movements precise and controlled. One of them checked a tablet, confirming the landing sequence, while another adjusted the restraints on Keanu's wife, ensuring compliance. There was no warmth, no empathy, only the ironclad efficiency of trained operatives executing a mission. Keanu's wife whispered, barely audible. "Keanu, it's New York. We're here." He nodded slightly, jaw tight. "Stay calm. Don't panic. Just follow my lead." He scanned the small cabin once more, memorizing every detail. Though restrained, he was already planning, calculating every possibility, every angle, every potential escape if the opportunity arose. The jet touched down smoothly, tires screeching lightly against the tarmac. The sound reverberated inside the cabin like a countdown to the unknown. Outside, a network of FBI vehicles and airport security waited. Floodlights glared harshly against the plane's metallic fuselage, casting sharp shadows that made the moment feel cinematic. Like a high-stakes thriller unfolding in real life, the plane's door opened with a heavy thud. Agents moved immediately, forming a protective perimeter around Keanu and his wife as they were guided down the stairs. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of jet fuel and asphalt, but it was overshadowed by the electric tension in the air. Reporters and photographers had already gathered at a distance, cameras flashing relentlessly, their voices a chaotic mixture of questions and exclamations. The sight of Keanu Reeves, world-renowned actor, being escorted by armed agents in handcuffs sent ripples through the crowd. Gasps, whispers, and camera clicks filled the space around them. Keanu and his wife walked slowly, maintaining composure, despite the glare of cameras and the prying eyes of strangers. Every step was deliberate, calculated, and cautious. Their hands remained clasped as best they could, a silent promise that no matter what came next, they were together. They reached the waiting FBI vehicles. Agents directed them inside with sharp commands. Keanu noticed the look in his wife's eyes, fear, confusion, and an unspoken question. What awaited them next? He squeezed her hand gently, whispering, "We'll get through this. Trust me." As the convoy began to move toward an unknown destination, Keanu cast a glance back at the city that never slept. For a fleeting moment, the convoy moved swiftly through the gray morning streets of New York, engines rumbling like distant thunder. Keanu Reeves and his wife sat rigid in the back of a reinforced FBI vehicle, their wrists still bound, eyes scanning every shadow, every passerby, every vehicle that flitted past. The city outside was alive, taxis honking, pedestrians rushing to work, but inside the SUV, time seemed to slow. Every second stretched, heavy with anticipation and dread. Keanu's wife leaned slightly toward him, voice barely above a whisper. "Keanu, what if this isn't just an arrest? What if someone wants to hurt us?" He held her hand firmly through the cuffs. "Whatever it is, we stay calm, we stay together. We can't let them see fear. Not now, not ever." His tone was steady, but inside his mind raced. Every plan, every calculation he had ever considered during his life flashed through his head. Escape routes, potential allies, legal options. It all felt surreal. Like plotting a strategy in a movie, yet every detail mattered because this was real. The SUV approached the entrance of a massive, imposing American federal facility. Steel gates rose slowly, revealing a stark compound with high walls, surveillance cameras, and armed officers stationed like silent sentinels. The sight made Keanu's chest tighten. This wasn't a temporary holding facility. It was designed to contain people the world might not see again for a long time. FBI agents flanked them on both sides as they were guided out of the vehicle. The handcuffs bit slightly at their wrists, a cold, unyielding reminder of their reality. Keanu's wife squeezed his hand once more, drawing strength from the connection, and he returned the gesture, silently promising protection. Inside the facility, the walls were sterile, harshly lit, echoing footsteps, and the clanging of metal doors. Agents led them down long corridors, each step reverberating like a drumbeat. Keanu noticed the unyielding security cameras, the steel reinforcements on every door, and the watchful eyes of guards. This place had no room for error. Finally, they arrived at a secure holding area. The steel doors opened, and the sound of the heavy locks slamming shut behind them echoed ominous. Keanu's wife inhaled sharply, a sound that betrayed fear and disbelief. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Though their physical movement was restricted, we stay calm. No matter what, we face this together." As they were separated into individual cells, the gravity of the situation hit Keanu fully. He had never felt more isolated, more powerless, yet his resolve only grew. The cold, unfeeling walls of the jail, the faint hum of surveillance equipment, and the echoing footsteps of guards created a symphony of tension. Keanu sat on the narrow metal bench, staring at the steel door in front of him. He thought of his wife in the adjacent cell, of the bewildering events that had brought them here, and of the unknown forces orchestrating their ordeal. Keanu Reeves sat in the dimly lit jail cell, the faint hum of surveillance, cameras, and the occasional clanging of distant metal doors, filling the silence. His mind raced, looping through every moment of the past hours. The serene London café, the sudden arrival of the FBI, the long, tense flight, and the harsh corridors of the American federal facility. Nothing made sense. Nothing explained why he and his wife had been dragged across the world without warning, without charges, without justification. Across the thin wall, he imagined his wife's presence, the warmth of her hand, the gentle strength she had shown despite the fear in her eyes. That thought anchored him, giving him clarity amidst the chaos. Whoever had orchestrated this, they hadn't broken their bond. They hadn't silenced them completely. Keanu leaned back against the cold metal wall, closing his eyes briefly. The questions pressed in relentlessly. Was this the result of some hidden scandal, a political conspiracy, or a personal vendetta from someone with immense power? Who had the authority to authorize an international extraction of a global celebrity? Why now? And most urgently, what danger awaited them beyond these steel bars? The lead FBI agent's words echoed in his memory. "This is bigger than you think. Don't make this harder." Those words hinted at a truth darker than mere legal proceedings. Someone powerful wanted him contained, silenced. But why? And was his wife truly safe, or merely collateral in a game that he had yet to understand? Keanu's mind began to shift from shock to strategy. Sitting behind bars didn't mean surrender. It meant observation, calculation, and preparation. Every guard's routine, every camera's angle, every detail of the cell became critical. Knowledge was the first weapon. Awareness, the first shield. Despite the steel and concrete surrounding him, a fire sparked within Keanu, a quiet, unrelenting determination. He had faced impossible odds before, in films and in life, and he had never backed down. Now reality mirrored fiction in the most terrifying way. He would uncover the truth, protect his wife, and confront the shadowy forces that sought to control them. Outside, the world continued unaware. Yet somewhere beyond these walls, invisible hands pulled strings, orchestrating an elaborate plot. Keanu understood only one thing for certain. The story had just begun. The arrest, the flight, the prison, all were pieces of a much larger puzzle. The camera of imagination zooms in on Keanu's face, eyes sharp, jaw set, resolve unbroken. Behind the bars, in the quiet of the American jail, he whispers a vow to himself. I will uncover the truth. I will protect my wife, and I will fight. The screen fades to black. The mystery remains unsolved, the danger unresolved, and the world waits to witness what happens when Keanu Reeves confronts an unseen enemy, far more powerful than any role he had ever played.